This is the second part of the book The Dark Knight, where Batman will have to make the hardest choice of his life. I'm just starting my channel, so each new audiobook will get better and better. Subscribe and support my journey. Chapter 21. The Assassination Game. Morning light bled through low clouds, silver and sickly. The streets of Gotham were lined with flags and flowers. Black bunting hung from every balcony, and in the center of it all, City Hall, draped in mourning. Commissioner Gordon's funeral procession was about to begin. The irony wasn't lost on him, because somewhere beneath that same building, hidden from the world, Gordon was very much alive. He stood in a dim storage room, radio in hand, voice hushed. "Unit 6 and 9, check in. Perimeter secure." "Affirmative," came the reply. Beside him, a handful of officers, the ones he trusted, loaded rifles, checked comms, scanned blueprints. They knew the truth now. The Joker wasn't done. He'd promised the mayor would die next, and every clue pointed to today. Gordon's eyes flicked to the wall clock. 11:42 a.m. "Everyone hold position," he said. "We wait for the shot." Above ground, the city gathered in tense silence. Rows of uniformed officers stood at attention, rifles lowered, eyes fixed forward. A brass band waited at the foot of the steps. The mayor stood at the podium, black tie crisp, face drawn and pale. Rachel and Harvey Dent stood together among the dignitaries, both looking hollowed by sleeplessness. Rachel's gaze drifted across the rooftops. "It feels like we're standing in a target," she whispered. Dent forced a smile. "That's because we are." High above, the Batman crouched at the edge of a rooftop overlooking the square. The wind caught his cape, snapping it like a banner. Through his scope, he saw movement, officers positioned along the surrounding roofs, honor guards, marksmen, and somewhere among them, a killer. He switched through vision modes, infrared, thermal, night residuals. One of the guards glowed faintly cooler than the others, body temperature suppressed, armor underneath the uniform. "Gordon," he growled into the comm. "I've got him. Northeast roof, building C." Static, then Gordon's voice. "Copy that. Hold your shot until we confirm." Batman steadied the lens. The fake officer was adjusting his rifle, slow, deliberate, waiting for his cue. And below, the mayor stepped to the microphone. "Today," the mayor began, "we honor the sacrifice of Commissioner James Gordon." The first rifle crack split the air. Screams erupted. The crowd scattered. Batman launched from the rooftop, gliding through the gunfire. Another shot rang out, then another. Dent tackled the mayor behind the podium, dragging him down as guards rushed forward. Rachel hit the ground beside them, covering her head. Above, Batman crashed into the sniper, knocking the rifle off balance. It fired wildly, shattering the marble statue below. The fake officer snarled at him. "Joker says hi." Batman disarmed him with brutal precision, slamming him into the gravel. His helmet cracked loose, revealing the painted grin underneath. Not a cop. One of the Joker's men. Before Batman could question him, the man smiled and detonated. A flash of fire, smoke, silence. In the confusion, another gunman slipped through the lower ranks of the honor guard. His rifle pointed not at the mayor, but at the man shielding him, Harvey Dent. A sharp whistle cut through the chaos. The gunman froze. The Joker stepped out from behind a patrol van, disguised in a stolen uniform, cap tilted low. He raised a finger to his lips. Not yet. Then he melted into the crowd, unseen. By the time the smoke cleared, Batman stood amid twisted debris and broken glass. Helicopters circled overhead. The mayor was alive. Dent and Rachel, shaken but unhurt. But the city had seen everything. The front page would read, "Batman stops assassination, explosion at City Hall." And somewhere in a dark room, the Joker would laugh until he cried. That night, Gordon stepped out of the shadows into the MCU, startling his own officers. The room fell silent. He smiled grimly. "Miss me?" Ramirez stared. "You're supposed to be dead." He shrugged. "It's working so far." He turned to Batman, who stood by the open window. "Now the Joker thinks he's untouchable. He'll come out to play." Batman nodded. "Then we make sure he plays with us." In the reflection of a cracked mirror, the Joker wiped away the last of his police makeup. Underneath, the paint gleamed white again. Perfect. Clean. He grinned at his own reflection. "You see, Batman? You're the hero who saved the mayor, the symbol Gotham needed." He flicked a lighter, watching the flame dance. But symbols burn so beautifully. Chapter 22. The Armored Convoy. The rain had stopped, but Gotham still glistened as if the storm never left. Sunlight cut through the clouds in shards, striking the wet asphalt like a warning. For one fragile morning, the city believed it might be safe. Then the orders came. Inside the MCU, Gordon stood over a city map spread across the table. Red pins traced a single route from the financial district to the county lockup. Each pin marked a checkpoint, intersections, bridges, turns. "Lau's being moved," he said. "We're transferring him from holding to central detention." Ramirez frowned. "Why not fly him? He's the mob's accountant. The Joker wants him." Gordon shook his head. "The mayor wants this quiet. Air transport's too visible." From the corner, Harvey Dent leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "Quiet?" he repeated. "You're running a convoy full of mob money through the middle of downtown. That's not quiet. That's bait." Gordon's eyes narrowed. "Exactly." Dent stared at him. "You're using him." Gordon didn't blink. "I'm using what the Joker wants most. Attention." Batman's voice cut in from the shadows. "And when he takes the bait." Gordon looked up at the dark shape by the window. "Then we catch him." The convoy rolled out at noon. 3 armored trucks, 2 police SUVs, and a decoy van in the rear. Sirens off, lights dark. Every turn calculated, every street cleared. From a rooftop 2 blocks away, Batman watched them go, silent, motionless, cape fluttering in the wind. Below, the city moved as usual, horns blaring, vendors shouting, life pretending not to be afraid. But in the alleys, in the quiet spaces between sirens, something else moved too. The Joker's people. In a rundown apartment overlooking Fifth Avenue, the Joker stood before a wall of monitors. Each showed a different street cam, a different angle of the convoy. He chewed on a matchstick, humming to himself. Behind him, 6 men armed with RPGs and rifles waited nervously. One finally spoke. "Boss, this is suicide. They'll have every cop in the city." The Joker turned slowly. "Don't talk like you're one of them." He plucked the matchstick from his teeth, smiling. "You see, they think they're protecting money. But me?" He snapped his fingers. The men tensed. "I'm protecting the punchline." He strode toward the window, sweeping his arm out toward the skyline. "Everyone's so serious about this little city, so afraid of losing control. Let's take it away from them." He laughed, a sound too bright for daylight. Send in the clowns. The first truck turned onto Lower Fifth. Everything was still. Then the sound of an explosion ripped through the avenue. The lead car flipped sideways, engulfed in fire. Gordon's radio erupted with shouts. "Unit 3 down! Ambush! Ambush!" The convoy braked hard, tires screeching. Smoke filled the street. Through the haze, a garbage truck roared into view, its side painted with a crude smile. Inside, the Joker stood with his head out the window, hair whipping in the wind. He wore no mask this time, just grease paint and joy. He shouted, "Let's put a smile on this convoy!" He opened fire. The armored truck swerved. Bullets tore through glass and steel. One officer went down. Another dragged him behind a wheel well. The Joker's men emerged from alleys and rooftops, firing indiscriminately. Civilians ran screaming into storefronts. The Joker leapt from the truck, RPG in hand, coat billowing behind him. He took aim at the second vehicle and smiled. Then he fired. The rocket streaked through the air and met something faster. A black shape shot between buildings, cables whistling. The projectile detonated midair, fire curling into the sky. Out of the smoke came the tumbler, engine roaring like thunder. The Joker laughed, ecstatic. "Ooh, you are fun!" The chase began. The armored convoy tore through the streets, the tumbler weaving between them, taking fire, returning nothing but speed. Gordon shouted into his radio, "Keep him off the lead truck. Move loud to the rear." "Copy. Wait, what the hell is that?" A semi-truck turned the corner ahead, its side emblazoned with crude graffiti. "Slaughter is the best medicine." The S was crossed out. Batman swerved hard, the tumbler colliding with a barrier. Metal screamed. The vehicle took the hit, but alarms blared inside the cabin. Lucius's voice came through the comm. "You're losing hydraulics. Pull back." "Not yet," Batman growled. The Joker stood atop the truck cab, arms wide, coat flaring in the wind. He aimed the RPG again, cackling. "Come on, Batsy, hit me!" Batman accelerated straight toward him. The RPG fired. At the last second, Batman hit eject. The tumbler swerved, exploded behind him, and from its wreckage emerged the Batpod. Two massive wheels, sleek black frame, engine snarling like an animal. The crowd watching from the rooftop screamed as the new machine burst through the smoke. The Joker's grin widened. "Oh, now we're talking!" He swung the RPG toward the Batpod, but Batman fired first, a line of cable snapping the launcher from his hands. The Joker stumbled backward, laughing as he fell from the truck and rolled onto the street. He stood, dusted himself off, and watched the Batpod approach head-on. "Come on, hit me!" he screamed. "Hit me!" Batman roared closer, then, at the last second, he swerved. The bike spun out, skidding into the darkness of a side alley. The Joker stared after him, disappointed. "You just couldn't do it, could you? You couldn't break your one rule." Then he smiled again. "Let's change that." The convoy limped to safety under Gordon's hidden command. The Joker was caught, or so it seemed. The city cheered. The mob panicked. And Batman, watching from the shadows, knew it was too easy. Sirens wailed. A SWAT van roared into the underpass. Doors opened. Out stepped Gordon. Alive. Gun drawn. Eyes fixed on the Joker. "Down!" he shouted. For once the Joker looked genuinely surprised. "Well, well, the dead rise again!" He raised his hands, smiling. "You got me." Gordon didn't move. "On your knees." The Joker tilted his head, amused. "You're sure? Knees are bad for my back." Gordon's men closed in, surrounding him. Cuffs snapped around his wrists. As they dragged him toward the van, the Joker started to laugh again. softly this time, like someone sharing a secret. "You didn't think I'd let it end like this, did you?" Gordon shoved him inside. "It ends tonight." The door slammed shut. Batman limped out from the wreckage, cape torn, armor smoking. He stared at the van disappearing into the night. "Where are they taking him?" Gordon approached. "Major crimes, secure cell." Batman's voice was a growl. He wanted to be caught. Gordon frowned. "You think this is part of it?" Batman looked toward the burning remains of the tumbler. Yes. He turned toward the skyline, the wind pulling at his cape. The real game starts now. In the back of the police van, the Joker sat perfectly still. Rain streaked the metal bars of the tiny window. He could see the flashing blue lights reflected there, pulsing, rhythmic, hypnotic. He began to hum, a low, lilting tune, something that almost sounded like a lullaby. The officer beside him finally snapped, "Shut up!" The Joker smiled without turning. "You know what I love about chaos?" The man glared. "Nothing." Joker leaned closer, voice soft. "It's fair." He giggled quietly, the sound blending with the sirens as the van drove on toward MCU. Outside, thunder rolled. Somewhere in the city, a phone began to ring.
Chapter 24. The Capture. The Major Crimes Unit was alive with noise, radios, boots, voices raised in disbelief. Officers gathered at the observation window, staring into the interrogation room like it was a miracle. There he sat, the man who'd terrorized Gotham for weeks, the Joker. His purple coat had been stripped away, revealing a gray prison uniform far too ordinary for the madness it contained. His wrists were cuffed to the metal table. The overhead light cast a harsh circle around him, glinting off the grease paint. He smiled at the two-way mirror, almost like he could see through it. In the next room, Gordon stood with Ramirez and Stevens, adrenaline still pulsing through the air. "Every city unit's outside. Crowds, news vans, they're calling you a hero." Gordon didn't look up. "Don't start with that." Stevens exhaled. "Still, after everything, we finally got him." Gordon glanced through the glass. "You don't get this guy. You just play his game." When the door opened, the Joker didn't flinch. He looked up and grinned. "Evening, Commissioner. You know, for a dead man, you look great." Gordon ignored him, pulling out the chair across the table. "You're going to tell me where they are." The Joker laughed softly. "Oh, that's adorable. You think you're in control." He leaned forward, eyes glinting. "You've changed, Jim. You've got lines now, bags under your eyes. Is it the guilt?" Gordon didn't blink. "You killed 6 of my men." The Joker shrugged. "6? I lost count." He smiled again, lazy, almost flirtatious. "But look on the bright side. I made you famous." In the observation room, Batman stood in the shadows, silent. The glow of the interrogation light reflected faintly on the edge of his mask. He didn't move, didn't breathe, just watched. Lucius's voice came through the comm. "Gordon says they've got nothing on him. No ID, no name, no prints. He's a ghost." Batman's voice was quiet. "Then it's time to ask the questions he can't lie about." When Batman entered, the Joker's head tilted immediately, his grin spreading. "Well, hello, beautiful." Batman said nothing. He slammed the door shut behind him. The sound echoed. The Joker flinched, delighted. "Oh, you are nervous. You look tense. Let's sit down and talk about your feelings." Batman dropped him across the table. the chair skidding. The Joker laughed, his voice breaking into a high-pitched giggle. "You can't beat information out of me. I like pain." Batman's voice was a low growl. "Then you're going to love this." Outside the glass, Gordon turned to Ramirez. "Keep the feed running." They watched as Batman circled the Joker like a storm. He slammed him against the wall. The Joker's laughter filled the room like a carnival. "You have nothing. You have all these rules, and look where they got you." Batman grabbed him by the collar, shoving his face into the table. "Where are they?" The Joker grinned up through blood and sweat. "Killing is making a choice." Batman froze. "What?" The Joker's eyes danced. "Between one life and another. Your friend, the district attorney, or his blushing bride-to-be." He laughed, a sound like broken glass. "You have nothing to threaten me with, nothing to do with all your strength." Batman's fist came down. The table cracked. Gordon burst into the room. "Enough! Where are they?" The Joker coughed, still laughing. "I'll tell you where they are, but you're going to have to choose." He looked between them. "One's on Avenue X at Cicero, and the other's on 52nd Street, and they're both going to blow in about 5 minutes. Batman's face hardened. "Which one?" The Joker smiled, teeth red. "That's the fun part." Batman lunged toward the door. Gordon called after him. "Which one are you going after?" Batman's voice was already fading down the corridor. "Rachel." As the door slammed, the Joker began to laugh, low at first, then rising into hysteria. "Oh, you really think he's going to make it? You didn't think I'd let him win, did you?" He tilted his head back and whispered to Gordon, almost tenderly, "You complete me." The Joker called after him, voice dripping with glee. "You know, these are the moments I love the most, when you realize you're just like me." Batman stopped at the door, just for a heartbeat. Then he was gone. The Joker leaned back in the chair, humming softly. Let's see if he gets the joke. Across Gotham, the police convoys roared through the storm. Gordon's men took the 52nd Street address. Batman, on the Bat-Pod, tore through the industrial district towards Cicero. Rain hit his armor in sheets. His eyes flicked between the road and the ticking counter on his display. 4 minutes. 3. 2. He cut the engine outside a warehouse, kicked the door down, and froze. Harvey. Inside, Harvey Dent sat tied to a chair, bruised and bleeding, half his face slick with gasoline. The air reeked of fuel. A metal drum nearby ticked like a clock. His eyes widened. "Batman, why are you? She's Rachel's." Batman's heart sank. "Where is she?" Harvey's voice cracked. "No, he said you were going for her." Then the realization hit them both at once. The Joker had switched the addresses. Batman lunged forward, cutting Harvey loose. "Hold on." The timer hit 15 seconds. He grabbed Harvey by the collar, dragging him toward the exit, but the floor was slick with fuel. Dent slipped, falling against the drum. Liquid poured over his left side, soaking his suit. He pulled harder. The door burst open, and the world ignited. At the same moment, in another warehouse across town, Rachel sat tied to a chair. Her voice was steady, almost calm. She could hear the ticking. Through the phone on the table, Gordon's voice came faint and panicked. "Rachel, we're coming for you. Hold on." She smiled faintly, tears streaking her face. "It's okay, Jim. Tell Harvey. Tell him it's gonna be all right." The explosion cut her off. A bloom of fire lit up the night sky. The blast at Cicero threw Batman across the concrete, shrapnel slicing through the rain.
He rolled, shielding Harvey beneath his cape. When the flames died, the world smelled of ash and burning chemicals. Batman pushed himself up, coughing. Harvey lay beside him, half his face blackened and glistening. Unrecognizable. He screamed, a sound of agony that wasn't just pain, but something deeper. Batman lifted him in his arms, staggering toward the distant sirens. Above them, the smoke curled into the shape of a grin. In the MCU interrogation room, the Joker sat motionless. The faint rumble of explosions shook the walls. He smiled to himself, whispering into the empty air. Half. He tapped his fingers on the table. One lives. One burns. When Gordon stormed in, face ashen, the Joker looked up. I told you, I'm a man of my word.
Chapter 26. The Choice. The sound never truly stopped. It echoed across Gotham, through alleys, over rooftops, between the towers that hid their sins behind glass and light. The explosion was a sunrise made of fire, and in its wake, silence fell heavier than ash. At major crimes, the building shook with the shockwave. Files fluttered from desks, lights flickered, and someone screamed. Then came the laughter, soft, delighted, from behind the glass. The Joker leaned forward in his chair, chains rattling softly. He could see the orange glow reflecting in the window, and his grin widened like it belonged there. Well, that's more like it. Gordon ran through the hall, shouting orders. Get me fire and rescue to both sites. Move, move! A uniformed officer stopped him. We've got Dent. He's alive, but he's hurt bad. Gordon froze. And Rachel? The silence was the answer. Far across the city, the Batpod screeched to a stop outside the burning warehouse on 52nd Street. The structure was collapsing, walls sagging inward, the air thick with smoke. Batman kicked down the door. Too late. Inside, everything was fire. The chair was gone, the floor blackened. Only the faint smell of perfume and gasoline lingered in the air. He stood in the doorway, motionless, as the flames rose higher. For once, he didn't move, didn't speak. The mask hid his face, but not the silence that followed. At Gotham General Hospital, chaos reigned. Paramedics rushed through corridors. Cops guarded every exit. Dent lay unconscious on a gurney, face swathed in bandages. The doctors worked in silence, the smell of antiseptic and burnt cloth filling the air. They whispered about the miracle, that he was alive at all. But when they unwrapped the left side of his face, even they fell silent. Beneath the gauze, the skin was gone, raw, blackened, glistening red. The man who once smiled at cameras and juries now lay broken between two worlds. Gordon stood outside the operating room, hands trembling around a cup of untouched coffee. His wife had called twice. He couldn't answer. Batman appeared in the corridor, still streaked with soot. The nurses froze when they saw him, like the myth had stepped out of the news. Gordon looked up, eyes hollow. You went for Rachel. Batman said nothing. The silence was louder than any admission. Gordon's voice cracked. He knew you would. Batman turned toward the glass, watching Dent through the blinds. He wanted me to choose between justice and love, between Harvey's future and my own. Gordon's voice hardened. You couldn't have saved them both. Batman's gaze didn't move. I was never meant to save either. In another part of the hospital, a nurse stepped into Dent's room to check the machines. The lights flickered once. When they steadied, the bed
was empty. Only the faint smell of smoke lingered. Back at the MCU, the Joker sat calmly as chaos unfolded around him. Phones rang, radios blared, officers shouted. He just hummed quietly, tapping his foot in rhythm with the sirens. Stevens burst into the room. "You think this is funny?" he shouted, slamming the door. "You killed 6 people tonight, 6!" The Joker smiled, as if hearing praise. "Only 6? I must be losing my touch." Stevens grabbed him by the collar. "Tell me what you did to Dent." The Joker leaned closer, whispering, "I just gave him a little push." Then he started laughing, uncontrollably, joyfully, until tears streaked his makeup. That night, in the penthouse, Bruce stood before the shattered windows overlooking Gotham. The city was still burning somewhere beyond the horizon. He could almost hear her voice in the hum of the wind. "Harvey's what you could be," Rachel had once told him. "You can't have both." Now he had neither. Alfred entered quietly, holding a letter. "Miss Dawes left this. He said it'd be given to you if things went wrong." Bruce didn't take it. He just stared at the skyline. "When things go wrong, Alfred, it's because I'm still here." At that same hour, deep beneath the hospital, Harvey Dent awoke. The world tilted, sterile white light above him, the steady beep of a heart monitor beside him. His left eye opened. The world on that side was a blur of red. He reached up, touched flesh that wasn't there, and screamed. The Joker's laughter echoed in his mind even before he heard it in person. A single flower lay on the nightstand beside his bed, a Joker card tucked beneath it. "You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain."
Chapter 27. The Explosion. The first morning after the fire was too bright. The rain had stopped, the smoke had lifted, and yet the air still smelled of ash. The city called it a tragedy. The Joker called it progress. At Gotham General Hospital, a white sheet covered what was left of Rachel Dawes. There was no one to identify her. Bruce couldn't. Gordon wouldn't. The nurses folded her hands over her chest, whispered a prayer, and closed the file with shaking fingers. In another wing, behind reinforced doors, Harvey Dent lay in darkness. He refused morphine, refused mirrors, refused to eat. The left side of his face, once perfect, confident, human, was now a ruin of blackened flesh and exposed bone. A line divided him straight down the center, as if fate itself had flipped a coin. When the nurse came to change his bandages, he turned away. She gasped. He said nothing. Across the city, Gotham began to unravel. The people who had once cheered for their white knight now whispered about curses. The papers filled with blame. The Batman failed. The Joker wins. Dent missing. Everywhere, televisions replayed footage of the explosions, 2 orange suns devouring the skyline. The anchors tried to sound calm. Their voices cracked anyway. In the Bat Bunker, Bruce stood before the monitors, each screen replaying a different angle of the blast. He had turned off the sound hours ago, but the silence was worse. Alfred entered, holding a tray of untouched food from earlier. He set it down quietly. "She's gone," Bruce said without turning. Alfred hesitated. "I know." Bruce's eyes stayed fixed on the screens. "I was supposed to save her." Alfred's voice was gentle. "You did what you thought was right." Bruce turned, eyes hollow.
I was wrong. He reached for Rachel's letter on the desk. It was still sealed. She wrote this before she died, but maybe it's better if you— Not now, he cut him off. He looked at the cowl resting on the table. She believed in Harvey. She was right. Alfred didn't reply. He only watched as Bruce walked past him into the shadows, the echo of Rachel's voice still living somewhere behind the silence. Meanwhile, the Joker vanished. The night after the explosions, he was gone from his cell. No one saw how he left. No alarm sounded. Only the guard on duty, one of Gordon's most trusted, disappeared too. When they found the body in the parking garage, his face was painted white. Later, Gordon stood in the interrogation room where the Joker had once sat. The chair was empty now, the mirror cracked. The smell of gunpowder lingered. He stared at his reflection, at the man who'd thought he could control chaos. The door opened behind him. It was Ramirez. "Sir, Dent's missing." She turned slowly. "Since when?" "2 hours. The nurses say he walked out before dawn." Gordon's jaw tightened. "Get every patrol on it." She hesitated. "Should we tell the press?" He shook his head. "Not yet. The city's already dying of fear." Far from the hospital, in an abandoned building that smelled of rust and rain, Harvey Dent stood before a broken mirror. The light from a single flickering bulb painted his reflection in halves, one human, one monstrous. His breathing was steady now, too steady. He took a coin from his pocket, his lucky coin, the same one Rachel had teased him about on their first date. He turned it in his fingers. The clean side gleamed. The other was charred black. He flipped it. Heads. He smiled without joy. He flipped it again. Tails. He laughed, quiet at first, then louder, the sound cracking like glass. At the MCU, Gordon stared at the Joker's empty cell. Stevens approached with a file. "We found this in his things." Inside the folder, photographs of the ferry terminals, blueprints of the Gotham River, lists of prisoners. Gordon frowned. He's planning something else. Stevens looked uneasy. "Sir, when does it end?" Gordon didn't answer. He stared at the empty chair again. "It ends when he wins." At twilight, Bruce returned to the rooftop where the bat signal burned faintly against the clouds. The metal frame was cracked from the last storm, and the light flickered like it was dying. He touched the edge of it, eyes distant. The city below was quiet, too quiet. A new kind of silence, the silence of disbelief. For the first time, Batman didn't know if he was the cure or the disease. Far below, the Joker's laughter drifted through the city's underbelly. He walked down a dark corridor, humming softly, his jacket swaying, his pockets full of chaos. "Dent, Dent, Dent," he whispered, amused. "You were the best of them. Let's see what you do with that beautiful coin of yours." He stopped beneath a flickering light, turned toward the camera that wasn't there, and smiled. "Gotham's got one last joke left, and I'm going to tell it."
Chapter 28. The Dark Hospital. The day after the explosions, Gotham wore black. Funerals crowded every church. News anchors spoke of tragedy and unity, their voices trembling behind practiced calm. But the city's pulse was strange, an anxious rhythm beneath the mourning. Because Harvey Dent, the man who'd once promised to save them all, had vanished, and no one wanted to ask what that meant. At Gotham General, a single wing was locked down. The guards were told the patient inside was high risk. They didn't know he was the last good thing Gotham had left. The room was dim. curtains drawn. The machines hissed quietly in the background. Harvey Dent lay motionless, half his face wrapped in gauze, half raw and exposed. His breath was shallow. He didn't sleep, he waited. In the dark, the memories looped endlessly. Rachel's voice, her scream, the smell of gasoline, the click of a timer, and then the fire. He could still hear the Joker's laughter through the static of the blast. Outside the room, a nurse carrying flowers hesitated before entering. She was pale, trembling slightly. "Good morning, Mr. Dent," she whispered, stepping closer. He didn't respond. She set the flowers by his bed, arranging them nervously. When she looked up, the Joker smiled at her from the doorway, dressed in a white nurse's uniform. She froze. The tray in her hands rattled. He winked. "Hi!" She screamed. He sighed, pressing his finger to his lips. "Shh! Visiting hours." She dropped the tray and bolted. He watched her go, amused, before strolling to the bedside. "Harvey, Harvey, Harvey," he said softly, dragging a chair across the floor with a squeal. He sat down, crossing one leg over the other. "Look at you. Half of you still pretty, half of you, well, not so much." Dent's one good eye opened. The other side of his face twitched. "Rachel," he whispered. The Joker tilted his head. "Oh, right, Rachel. You know, I was rooting for you two. Really. Beautiful couple." He leaned closer, voice dropping. "But you see, I don't plan things. I just do things." Harvey's voice was hoarse. "You planned it. You knew." The Joker interrupted with a shrug. "I just gave you all a little push. And look what you did with it. You survived. You're tough. You're fair. You're lucky." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a coin, Harvey's coin, blackened on one side. He flipped it once and caught it. Dent's breath caught. His gaze locked on the coin. The Joker smiled, admiring it. "You live your life by chance, Harvey. All I did was show you what that really means." He leaned closer, voice soft and poisonous. "You thought you could control everything. You thought you could save people, but you couldn't save her. You couldn't even save yourself." Harvey's fingers twitched on the bedsheet. "She was going to marry me," he quietly said. The Joker tilted his head. "No, she was going to marry the part of you that believed in order, in fairness. But the world doesn't work like that, Harvey. The world is cruel, and the only fair thing in it—" He flipped the coin into the air. It spun in the light, glinting gold and black. "Is chance." He caught it, placed it gently in Harvey's palm. The burned fingers closed around it like claws. Outside, the hospital intercom crackled. "Attention, evacuation protocol initiated. Please proceed to the exits." The Joker stood, dusting off his skirt. "Anyway," he said cheerfully, "I've got to run. You know how it is. Busy day, people to blow up." He turned toward the door, paused. "You know what, Harvey? You were the best of them. I mean that." He smiled faintly, almost sincere. "And now look at you. You're free." He left without another word. Minutes later, the first explosion hit. The shockwave blew the windows outward, showering glass into the street. Patients screamed, alarms blared. The building began to collapse in slow motion. From outside, the Joker strolled through the chaos, pushing a detonator button idly like a child playing a game. The hospital erupted behind him in a perfect rhythm of destruction. He paused once, frowning when one of the charges didn't go off. He tapped the detonator again. Boom! He jumped slightly, then smiled. He adjusted his nurse's mask, climbed into a waiting school bus, and vanished into the screaming streets. In the ruins, smoke and ash rose like ghosts. Firefighters pulled bodies from the rubble, shouting names. Among them, no one noticed the man limping away in a tattered hospital gown, half his face gleaming wet under the light. He walked steadily, clutching a coin in one burned hand. Each step left a black print on the floor. He didn't look back. That night, Gordon stood on the overpass watching the city burn for the second time in a week. His phone rang. It was Ramirez. They found the Joker's bus abandoned near the river. No sign of him. Gordon's voice was low. And Dent? A pause. Gone. He hung up slowly, staring at the horizon. The skyline still flickered with the reflection of distant fire. God help us all, he whispered. Deep in the city's underbelly, the Joker stood before a wall covered with maps and newspaper clippings, humming. He pinned another photograph to the board, Harvey Dent's smiling face taken before the scars. He drew a smile over it in red marker. Let's turn Gotham's hero into a headline, he whispered. Then he laughed. The sound spread through the empty room, bouncing off the walls until it felt like the whole city was laughing with him.
Chapter 29. The Monster Within. Night settled over Gotham like smoke that wouldn't clear. The hospital ruins still burned faintly in the distance, a red wound against the skyline. The news ran endless loops of sirens, funerals, politicians promising strength. But no one mentioned the missing patient. No one said his name aloud. Somewhere in the Narrows, in a half-collapsed factory that once made ammunition, Harvey Dent sat alone in the dark. He'd stolen a black coat from a hospital worker, and it hung loose over his burned skin. His reflection stared back from a cracked mirror. Half a man, half a nightmare. He held the coin between two fingers, the same coin he'd used for every case, every decision. The clean side gleamed faintly. The other side was charred, almost melted. He turned it slowly, studying both faces. Two truths, two outcomes. He flicked it. Heads. He smiled bitterly. He flicked it again. Tails. He whispered, fair. The word sounded different now, heavier, final. When the door opened, Detective Wirtz hesitated in the threshold. He'd followed the rumors that Dent was alive, hiding. Now that he saw him, he almost wished he hadn't. "Harvey," he said quietly, "you're supposed to be—" "Dead?" Dent interrupted without looking up. "Yeah, I hear that a lot." Wirtz shifted uneasily. "I had nothing to do with what happened. The Joker—" "The Joker?" Harvey turned and the light hit his face. Wirtz recoiled. Rachel was tied to a chair, barrels of gasoline all around her. "You and Ramirez were the only two cops I trusted." "Harvey, I swear—" Dent flipped the coin. It spun in the air, flashing once in the light before landing on his palm. Heads. He exhaled. "You live." Wirtz stumbled backward, confused. "Live? What do you—" Dent raised his gun. "Means you get to keep breathing. For now." He pulled the trigger, once, into the floor beside Wirtz. The sound rang through the factory. "Find Ramirez. Tell her she's next." Wirtz didn't need to be told twice.
He ran. Later that night, Detective Ramirez opened the door to her small apartment. It was dark. Too dark. "Hello," she whispered. The voice that answered came from the shadows. "Where's Gordon's family?" She froze. "Harvey?" He stepped into the light, half his face red and slick under the lamp, one eye milky white. She covered her mouth. "Oh, my God!" He moved closer. "You delivered her. Rachel. You let them take her." Tears welled in her eyes. "They said they'd kill my mother if I didn't. I didn't know what they'd do to Rachel, I swear." He raised the coin. "Chance. That's all you get now." He flipped it. Heads. He stepped back. "You live." She collapsed against the wall, sobbing. When she looked up again, he was gone. By dawn, Gotham's underworld was whispering a new name. Two-Face. A man with one burned side and one perfect, flipping a coin before killing his victims. He didn't want money, didn't want power, just balance. For every crooked cop, one bullet. For every lie, one coin toss. At the MCU, Gordon stood over a stack of reports, reading in silence. Stevens entered quietly. "Sir, they're saying it's Dent." Gordon looked up sharply. "You think I don't know that?" Stevens swallowed. "What do we tell the press?" Gordon's eyes were bloodshot. "Nothing. Dent is a hero. He died a hero." Stevens frowned. "But if it's really him—" Gordon cut him off. "Then I'll bring him in myself." Meanwhile, the Joker was already 3 steps ahead. He sat in the back of a stolen truck, surrounded by his men, each one dressed like a clown, each one terrified of him. On the table before him were blueprints of 2 ferries, side by side on the river. One for the prisoners, one for the civilians. He traced his finger over the drawings, humming tunelessly. "Harvey's doing my job for me. He's showing them that their heroes are just like me. All it takes is one bad day." He looked up at his men. "Let's give this city one last magic trick." In the Narrows, Dent stood on a rooftop overlooking the river. The dawn light caught the edge of his coin as he flipped it. It landed, burned side up. He nodded once to himself. Fair. He holstered his gun and disappeared into the shadows, leaving the coin spinning on the ledge. When it stopped, it showed heads, but there was no one left to see. Chapter 30. Burning Bridges. Gotham's night glowed orange again. Not from the sun, from money. In the middle of an abandoned warehouse at the docks, a mountain of cash towered 3 stories high, neat stacks of bills piled like a monument to greed. The mob's fortune, every dollar Lau had brought back from Hong Kong, and on top of it all, standing like a priest before his altar, was the Joker. He looked up at the crime bosses gathered before him, Maroney, Chechen, and the remnants of Gotham's underground. Their faces gleamed with sweat and fear. The Joker clapped his hands once. "Gentlemen, we've reached the part of the show where we separate the men from the morons." He reached into his pocket, pulled out a cigarette, and sniffed it thoughtfully. "This city's all about money, isn't it? You talk, you kill, you run, but only if there's a dollar sign attached. You see, I don't want your money." He smiled. "I just want to see what happens when you stop believing in it." He dropped the cigarette. The flames crawled upward like a slow, hungry animal. The paper curled, blackened, then ignited in full, a tower of fire lighting the night. Maroney lunged forward. "What the hell are you doing?" The Joker watched the inferno rise, his face illuminated by the flickering light. He turned, smiling at the men behind him. "It's not about the money," he said softly. "It's about sending a message." He turned, smiling at the men behind him. "Everything burns." Outside, the heat washed across the docks. The Chechen's men screamed as they realized their empire was turning to ash. Some tried to run. Others froze, staring into the fire like it was a judgment. The Joker walked through them calmly, coat trailing smoke, his grin wider than ever. He stopped beside a truck. Its rear doors were open. Inside, bound and gagged, was Lau. The Joker tilted his head. "Don't worry, buddy. You're part of the message, too." Then he turned and walked away, the fire roaring behind him. When the flames reached the truck, the explosion shattered the windows across the docks. The Joker didn't look back. At Gotham Central, Gordon read the first reports. Massive fire at Pier 22, Lau confirmed dead, no casualties among mob witnesses. Stevens glanced over. "Mob's terrified. They say he's burning everything they own." Gordon rubbed his temples. "He's not after the mob. He's after their belief in structure. If the mob falls apart, so does the city's shadow government. Then chaos runs free." He looked up at the bat signal flickering faintly outside the window. "Where's Batman?" In the bat bunker, Bruce stared at a map of Gotham lit up with emergency calls. Dozens of fires, dozens of crimes. No pattern, no logic, just chaos. Alfred stood beside him. "The Joker's not following rules, Master Wayne. He's rewriting them." Bruce's voice was low, almost tired. "He's winning." Alfred frowned. "You can't think like him." Bruce turned, eyes hollow. "To stop him, I might have to." Meanwhile, Harvey Dent, or what was left of him, sat in the passenger seat of Maroney's car. The mob boss drove nervously, glancing sideways at his half-milted profile. Dent's gun rested loosely in his lap. He flipped the coin in his other hand, eyes calm. "Harvey," Maroney said, forcing a laugh, "we can make a deal. The Joker, he's not with us. I can help you find him." He caught the coin. "He's not the one I'm here for." Maroney swallowed. "Who then?" He flipped the coin again. "Heads, you live." Maroney gripped the wheel tighter. "Wait!" He caught it. Tails. The car swerved off the bridge. Metal screamed. The vehicle tumbled into the river below, vanishing in a cloud of spray. When rescue crews found the wreck the next morning, the driver's seat was empty. Only a scorched coin lay on the dashboard. Back at the docks, the fire finally burned itself out. The mountain of ash smoldered quietly in the wind. From far away, it looked almost beautiful, like the ruins of a temple. And in a way, that's exactly what it was. The Joker's new world had no gods left, no money, no law, no heroes, only madness. Later that night, the Joker stood on the edge of the bridge where the car had gone over, staring down at the dark river. He dropped a playing card into the water. The Joker, of course. It floated for a moment before disappearing into the current. He smiled to himself. "Your move, Batman." In the Wayne penthouse, Bruce sat in the dark, still wearing the suit, cowl resting beside him. The skyline flickered in the glass, fire and lightning, alternating in rhythm. He whispered into the silence, How much more can one city take? Alfred's voice came softly from behind him. As much as it must, sir, until someone decides to be the villain it needs. Bruce didn't answer. He only looked down at Rachel's letter, unopened, still waiting. He set it beside the cowl, as if both belonged to the same past. Somewhere in the city, Two-Face loaded a fresh bullet into his pistol. He looked up at the skyline, the distant glow of fire reflected in his one good eye. He flipped the coin. Heads. He smiled faintly. Not yet. Chapter 31. The Fall of the White Knight. The night was colder than usual, clear, windless, cruel. The kind of night when the city's reflections looked sharper than the city itself. And in one of those reflections, Harvey Dent saw what he had become. Half of his face was gone, half of his soul with it. The man who once smiled for cameras and spoke about law and fairness now stood in the ruins of his own ideals, holding a gun and a coin. He'd made a list. Names. Faces. Everyone who had played a hand in Rachel's death. At the top, Detective Wirtz. Then Ramirez. Then Maroney. And finally, Jim Gordon. Each name carried its own story, its own lie. But in Harvey's mind, all of them were guilty of the same thing, believing they could control chaos. Wirtz went first. They found him 2 nights later in an abandoned parking lot, a bullet through the heart and a coin on his chest. Clean side up. The press called it gang retaliation. Gordon knew better. Now Dent moved on to the next. He waited in the dark outside Ramirez's apartment, coin glinting in the half-light. When she opened the door, he was already there. "Harvey," she whispered, tears already forming. "Please, I have a family." "So did I," he said softly. "So did Rachel." She backed up, shaking. "You don't have to do this." He raised the coin between them. "It's not up to me." He flipped it. It spun through the air, caught the glow of the hallway bulb, then landed on his palm. Heads. He closed his fist, lowering the gun. "Luck," he said, almost gently. "Don't waste it." By the time she looked up again, he was gone. At Gotham Central, Gordon's men pored over crime scene photos. The evidence was unmistakable. The coin, the precision, the silence. Gordon stood over the table, jaw tight. Stevens hesitated beside him. "You think it's really him?" Gordon didn't look up. "Dent's dead." "Sir, with all due respect, I said he's dead." He turned away before anyone could see the guilt on his face. Meanwhile, Batman followed the same trail. The Bat computer mapped each killing, each sighting, each whisper. The pattern was unmistakable, like a chessboard slowly clearing toward one final move. Alfred's voice came from the shadows behind him. "He's not the man you knew, Master Wayne." Batman's voice was quiet, strained. "He was the best of us. Maybe that's why he broke." Bruce looked down at the glowing map, every mark a death, every death a coin toss. "He's not after power," he murmured. "He's after justice, his kind of justice." In the Narrows, a black sedan pulled into a quiet intersection. Inside sat Maroney, his driver, and a pair of bodyguards. The street was empty, too empty. Maroney frowned. "I don't like this." From the shadows a voice replied, "You shouldn't." Dent stepped into the street, his burned face catching the yellow of a flickering streetlight. Maroney swore under his breath, "Jesus, Harvey!" Dent raised the gun. "2 questions," he said evenly. "Who helped the Joker take Rachel?" Maroney's eyes darted. "We had a deal, Dent. You were untouchable." Dent fired once. The bullet shattered the headlight beside him. "Wrong answer." He flipped the coin. It landed. Tails. Maroney flinched. "Harvey!"
Dent fired again. The car veered sideways, tires screaming. It flipped once, twice, metal twisting in midair, then crashed into a lamppost. Dent stood in the smoke, breathing hard. He looked down at the coin on the pavement, black side up. "Fair," he whispered. By dawn, word spread fast. Every corner of Gotham whispered the same story. The White Knight had fallen. Gordon watched the sunrise from his office window, his reflection fractured by the glass. Batman stood behind him. "Dent's killing everyone who betrayed him. He's not finished." Gordon rubbed his eyes. "He blames me, and he's right." Batman turned toward him. "He trusted you. That's why he's coming for you last." Gordon exhaled slowly. "Then we stop him before he gets to my family." Batman's voice dropped, heavy with something like sorrow. "I don't think we can stop him." He looked out over the waking city. "Not both of us." That night, Dent's car disappeared from the CCTV grid. Gordon's wife and son vanished from their home hours later, and on a quiet rooftop overlooking the river, Batman watched the thirst ferry lights moving across the black water. 2 boats, 2 choices, and somewhere, the Joker laughed.
Chapter 32. The Joker's Kingdom. The night began quietly, too quietly for Gotham. The river was calm, black glass under the sodium lights of the harbor. 2 ferries cut through it like slow, patient knives, one loaded with convicts from Blackgate Prison, the other with ordinary citizens being evacuated. Neither boat knew the other existed. Not yet. On the first ferry, the prisoners stood restless and silent under armed guard. Men who'd lived their lives in cages now felt the night air on their faces. They looked uneasy, not because of freedom, but because freedom came from Gotham's police. That never meant anything good. The warden barked orders, his voice hard with authority he didn't quite feel. "Keep order, no talking. We're just moving you across until sunrise." No one answered. On the second ferry, the civilians, panic simmered under the surface. Families clutched one another, faces pale in the flickering light. A businessman shouted at the captain, demanding to know when they'd dock. A mother hushed her crying child, whispering lies she wanted to believe. Above them, thunder rolled across the river. Then, the power went out. Both ships went dark at once. Engines dead, lights gone. Only the sound of waves and distant thunder remained. A moment later, the emergency generators kicked in, dim red light flooding the decks. And then, the voice came. Rough, distorted, laughter buried beneath static. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are tonight's entertainment." The Joker. He spoke through the intercom on both ferries at once, his tone cheerful, almost polite. "You've all been part of a social experiment. See, I believe Gotham's people aren't as good as they think they are. And tonight, you're going to help me prove it." He giggled softly, the sound fizzing through the speakers. "Each of your boats has a detonator. At midnight, if one of you presses the button, the other boat goes kaboom. Simple, right?" He paused for dramatic effect. "Oh, and if nobody presses it by midnight, I'll blow you both sky high. So, choose wisely." The line crackled and died. On the prison ferry, panic turned to chaos. The guards shouted, weapons raised, trying to contain a room full of killers who suddenly had the means to save themselves. A massive inmate named Reese stepped forward, eyes burning. He pointed at the box in the captain's hands, the detonator. "Give it to me. I'll do what you can't." The captain hesitated. Reese reached out and in one motion ripped the box away. He stared at it for a long moment, thumb hovering over the button. Then he turned
and threw it out the window into the river. It's what he wants. We're not playing his game, Reese growled. On the civilian ferry, the debate was uglier. A man in the suit stood on a chair, shouting above the crowd. He's bluffing. He's trying to scare us. We have to do it first. Blow them before they blow us. Someone shouted back, They're prisoners, not animals. The man jabbed a finger toward the river. They had their chance. They chose to be criminals. My kids are on this boat. Are you ready to die for them? A vote was called. Hands trembled in the air. Majority said yes. No one could bring themselves to press the button. The box sat on the floor, glowing faintly red, like the pulse of something alive. Above it all, in the tallest skyscraper overlooking the river, the Joker watched from a wall of monitors. He was surrounded by hostages, men in clown masks, doctors, guards, all bound and gagged, eyes wide with terror. He leaned forward in his chair, grinning at the screens. The glow of the monitors flickered over his face like candlelight in a chapel. "Oh, come on," he whispered. "Don't tell me you're all good now. That's no fun." He tapped the side of the screen, impatient. "Somebody press something." Behind him, one of his men shifted nervously. "Boss, what if they don't?" He turned, eyes cold. "They will." He smiled. "They just need a little push." On the Bat-Pod, tearing through the empty streets towards the docks, Batman heard the Joker's broadcast through police scanners. His voice cut through the wind. "He's got both boats rigged. He wants them to choose who lives." Gordon's voice replied, static over the radio. "What are you going to do?" "Find him before he decides for them." Batman's eyes narrowed behind the cowl. "He'll be watching. He wants to see them break." He accelerated, engines screaming through the rain. In his tower of screens, the Joker tilted his head as if listening to the city's heartbeat. Every scream, every prayer, every silence, all of it music. He spread his arms wide, eyes wild. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first night of my new world." He looked down at his hostages, the ones he dressed like clowns just to confuse the SWAT teams waiting outside. He pulled a knife, licked the blade, and whispered, "It's showtime." Outside, Gotham burned quietly under the rain. Every light that flickered reflected off the river, two ferries caught in perfect stillness, waiting for someone to make a choice. And in the heart of the chaos, two men moved toward each other, one in black, trying to save a city, one in white and red, trying to prove it doesn't deserve saving.
Chapter 33. The Fairy Test. The river was a mirror of fear. Every ripple carried whispers. Every light trembled on the surface like it was afraid to look down. Two ferries drifted in the middle of it all, stranded, silent, waiting for judgment. On the civilian ferry, tension sat like a weight in the air. No one spoke above a whisper anymore. The captain stared at the detonator, still glowing red in his hand. A man in a business suit finally snapped. "What are we doing just sitting here? He said midnight. That's in 15 minutes. A woman clutched her child tighter. "We can't kill hundreds of people." He spun on her, wild-eyed. "They're criminals. They had their chance. You think they wouldn't push it if it were us?" The crowd murmured, voices rising, fear disguised as logic. An older man stood up from the corner. His voice was calm, steady. "You can tell yourself it's them or us," he said. "But the second you do, he wins." The room fell quiet. On the prison ferry, guards argued in hushed tones. The warden's hand shook as he tried to radio for help. No signal. Beside him, the same massive inmate, Reese, sat watching. He stood slowly, towering over the guards. "Give me the detonator." They froze. The warden's voice trembled. "Why?" Reese's eyes were steady. "So you can tell them I took it by force." He snatched the device from the captain's hand. For a moment everyone waited, expecting him to press it. Instead, he walked to the edge of the ferry and threw it overboard. It hit the water with a faint splash, disappearing into the dark. He turned back to the others. "No one else needs to die tonight." No one spoke, not even the guards. Above them all, high in his tower, the Joker leaned closer to his monitors, grinning at both feeds. He saw the calm spreading on both boats. It irritated him. He drummed his fingers on the table. "Oh, come on! Don't tell me Gotham's gone soft! Somebody give me a scream!" He turned to one of his men. "What time is it?" He stammered. 11:57. The Joker licked his lips, muttering, "Any minute now." Far below, through the rain, the sound came. Not a scream, but an engine, a rising mechanical snarl. The Joker's smile faltered. He looked toward the window just as Batman's glider cut through the night sky, black wings slicing the storm. The glass shattered inward as the Dark Knight crashed through the window, rolling across the floor and rising to his feet in one smooth motion. The hostages screamed. The Joker clapped his hands. "You made it! I was beginning to think you didn't care." Batman said nothing. His cape flicked behind him like smoke. "Let them go!" he growled. The Joker tilted his head. "You really think I'd let that happen? You see, we're past the part where rules matter." He pulled a trigger on his vest. The hostages gasped. Wires ran through the room, connected to barrels of explosives along the walls. Batman froze. The Joker grinned. "Funny thing about chaos, it doesn't wait for permission." The two men circled each other, lightning flashing through the broken windows. The city stretched out below them, the ferries glowing like distant candles on the water. "You let Dent fall. You let Rachel burn. And now you want to play the hero again? Don't you get it? You're just like me." Batman lunged forward. The Joker swung first, faster than expected. The knife caught the light, glinting, before Batman blocked it with his forearm guard. They crashed into the monitors, sparks flying. Down on the river, both ferries sat still, seconds to midnight. The civilians huddled together, waiting for the explosion. The prisoners closed their eyes and prayed. Nothing happened. Up in the tower, the Joker pinned Batman beneath him, laughing as the seconds ticked away. "Any minute now, they'll prove me right." He looked at his watch. 5, 4, 3. Silence. No explosion. The Joker frowned. He looked toward the river, two boats still floating peacefully. He blinked as if not understanding. They didn't do it." Batman shoved him off, rising slowly. "They proved you wrong." The Joker tilted his head, still smiling, but this time the smile looked strained. No, you see, you can't rely on people. You can't trust them to do the right thing." Batman stepped closer. Tonight, they did. The Joker lunged again, knife flashing. Batman caught his wrist, twisting until the blade clattered to the floor. He slammed the clown against the railing, the city's wind howling around them. The Joker laughed even harder, almost joyous. "You think this ends with me in a cell? No! See, I've already won!" Batman grabbed him by the collar, forcing him toward the edge. "Then why do you look so scared?" The Joker's laughter broke into a cough. He dangled over the drop, wind whipping through his hair. Below, the lights of Gotham glittered like tiny fires. "You won't kill me. You're too much fun." Batman's grip tightened. Then he released him. The Joker fell, laughing all the way down, until the rope around his ankle caught him mid-air, leaving him swinging upside down like a marionette. He kept laughing. Batman leaned over the edge, voice steady. This city just showed you it's full of people ready to believe in good. The Joker smiled through the blood. Until the chips are down, you'll see. I took Gotham's White Knight, and I brought him down to our level. He giggled softly, voice breaking. You didn't think I'd risk losing the soul of this city to a freak dressed like you, did you? Batman's expression didn't change. What did you do? The Joker just smiled wider. I showed them the truth. Below them, the ferry's lights flickered, both crews realizing at once that they had survived. A few began to cry, others just sat down, too numb to move. Gordon's voice came faintly through Batman's comms. They didn't do it! Nobody pushed the button! Batman's voice was low. It's over. But in his gut, he knew it wasn't. As the SWAT team surrounded the tower, the Joker dangled above them, still laughing. You see, Bats, this city isn't yours anymore. It's mine now. All it took was a little push.
Chapter 34. The Clown Prince's End. The wind howled through the shattered windows of the high-rise. The rain fell sideways, cold and sharp, hissing against the steel beams. And above it all, the Joker hung upside down, his laughter echoing across the night like a song for the end of the world. Batman stood at the edge, breathing hard, cape whipping in the wind. SWAT officers moved carefully through the wreckage below, flashlights slicing through the dark. Their beams illuminated the Joker's body as he swayed gently on the rope, still smiling. He looked up, or rather down, at the dark night. You just couldn't let me fall, could you? This is what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Batman's voice was cold steel. You're alone. The Joker giggled. You can't rely on anyone these days. You have to do everything yourself. He twisted slightly, the rope creaking. But you know what I noticed about chaos, Bats? It's fair. You and we're destined to do this forever. Batman stepped closer to the edge. You'll be in a padded cell forever. The Joker's eyes glittered. Maybe, but I've still got one ace left. Gordon's voice came through Batman's comm. We found Dent, sir. He's got my family. Batman froze. The Joker smiled wider, sensing it. Oh, you didn't think I'd leave that poor boy out of the fun, did you? You see, madness, as you know, is like gravity. All it takes is a little push. Batman turned, already moving toward the exit. The Joker's laughter followed him down the stairwell, bright and horrible. Go get him, hero! Down below, Gordon's squad found the Joker still swinging in the wind. One officer looked up. Sir, should we cut him down? Gordon shook his head. No. Let him hang. He turned away, voice low. We've got something worse to deal with. On the ground, the SWAT team secured the last of the hostages. Medics tended to the injured. Reporters shouted questions. No one answered. And through it all, the Joker laughed, until his voice finally broke. He hung there in the rain, smile fading into something quieter. You didn't think this was the ending, did you? He whispered to no one. This is just the punchline.
At the river, the ferries finally docked. Civilians staggered ashore, shaken but alive. The prisoners filed out silently, heads bowed. One of the guards looked up at the sky. The storm had started to clear, but the light that broke through wasn't sunrise. It was fire. Somewhere else in Gotham, something was burning again. In the Batmobile, racing through the streets, Batman's comm crackled with Gordon's voice. "He's got my family at the old building on Avenue 250. He says he wants to talk about Chance." Batman's jaw tightened. "I'm on my way." He gunned the engine, roaring through the rain. The city lights blurred past, red, yellow, blue, like veins pulsing in a dying body. Back at the skyscraper, the Joker finally stopped laughing. He looked out over the city, his voice barely more than a whisper. "You didn't think I was trying to beat you. I was trying to show you how easy it is to break them." He grinned again, faintly, almost lovingly. "They'll always need you, Batman, because they'll always hate you." Now that's the joke. The wind picked up, swinging him gently back and forth, his laughter rising once more, fading into the distance like a broken wind chime. Batman raced toward the address, the storm clearing behind him. Every rooftop blurred into the next, every memory into fire. Rachel's voice haunted the sound of the engine. "Harvey's the one who can make a difference." He was about to find out what kind of difference Harvey had made.
Chapter 35. The Hostages. The Batpod howled through Gotham streets like a wounded animal. The rain had stopped, but the roads were slick with the memory of it, shining black rivers between the bones of the city. Batman leaned into the turns, cape flaring, the skyline flashing by like dying neon. Every thought was a single repeating rhythm. Dent, Gordon's family, now. The address came into view, an abandoned warehouse on Avenue 250, one of Gotham's forgotten industrial blocks. No lights, no movement, only the faint hum of the city far away. Batman killed the engine, letting silence settle around him. Then he heard it. A voice. Not the Joker's shrill laughter, but something quieter. A man talking to himself. He moved inside, steps silent. The smell hit first. Gun oil, dust, concrete, and something else. The faint copper of blood. At the far end of the warehouse, Harvey Dent stood beneath a broken skylight. His half-burned face caught the moonlight, the other half hidden in shadow. In front of him, Gordon's wife and son, bound but unharmed. Gordon stood to the side, gun drawn but shaking. He looked 10 years older. "Harvey," he said softly, "put the gun down. We can fix this." Dent smiled, or tried to. Only half his mouth moved. "Fix this?" he repeated. "You can't fix her. You can't fix me." He looked down at the coin in his hand. The burned side gleamed black. "This is how the world makes sense now. Everything's fair. 50-50. Batman stepped out of the shadows. "Harvey." Dent's head jerked toward him, gun rising slightly. "Don't. You don't get to talk to me. Not after her." Batman's voice was low, calm. What happened to Rachel wasn't chance. It was the Joker. He wanted to destroy everything good about you. Dent's laugh cracked in the middle. "He didn't have to try that hard." He pointed the gun at Gordon's son. "You thought I died a hero, Jim. You had everyone believing it. But you were one of them. You betrayed me." Gordon's voice broke. "I tried to save you." "You didn't," Dent screamed, veins standing out in his neck. "You let me burn." He turned the coin in his hand, the metal glinting. "Rachel didn't get a choice, so we're going to play her game now, all of us." The boy whimpered softly. Batman moved closer, one slow step at a time. "Harvey," he said, "this isn't you." Dent's eye flipped toward him. "It's all that's left of me." He flipped the coin. It spun, flashing gold and black, then landed in his palm. "Heads." He turned it toward Gordon. "Your boy lives." He cocked the gun. "Your turn." He flipped it again. Batman moved. The gun went off. The sound cracked like lightning in the confined space. Batman slammed into Dent, knocking him back through the railing. They hit the ground below, the impact echoing through the warehouse. For a moment, everything went still, dust hanging in the air like fog. Then Dent groaned, rolling over, and slipped. He fell the rest of the way down, landing hard on the concrete floor. The coin landed beside him, spinning for several long seconds before stopping on the clean side. Heads. Gordon ran to the edge, shouting, "Harvey!" Batman stood over Dent's still body, breathing hard. For a moment he said nothing. Then quietly, "He's gone." Gordon's voice cracked. "Oh, God!" He looked at his son, alive, shaking, crying. Then at Batman. "What are we going to tell them?" Batman's eyes rose to meet his. "The truth." He paused. "But not the one they need to hear." Outside, the sirens were already closing in, the wail of Gotham's last illusion of order. Gordon looked toward the flashing lights, despair settling into his features. The Joker won. Batman shook his head. Not yet. He turned toward the fallen coin, picked it up, and handed it to Gordon. Harvey's story can't end like this. Not for them, not for her. Gordon stared at the coin, one perfect side, one scarred. His voice was barely a whisper. "You can't take the blame for this." "I can, and I will." The sirens grew louder. The light of approaching police cruisers cut through the warehouse windows. Gordon knelt beside Harvey's body, closing his eyes. "Why, Batman?" The Dark Knight turned away, his silhouette framed by the red and blue flashing outside. "Because Gotham needs its hero."
Chapter 36. Harvey's Coin. The warehouse seemed to grow quieter by the second. The sirens outside faded into a distant hum, like the city holding its breath. Rainwater dripped through the broken roof in slow, steady beats, a clock marking the end of one life and the birth of a terrible choice. Harvey Dent lay still on the concrete floor, lit by flashing red and blue from the patrol cars surrounding the building. For a moment, his ruined face seemed almost peaceful. Half untouched, the man Gotham adored, half scorched, the monster the Joker created. Commissioner Gordon stood over him, shaking. His son clung to his leg, too young to understand, but old enough to feel the wrongness of the moment. Batman watched in silence. Justice had lost something tonight, something irreplaceable. "Dent killed those people," Gordon finally whispered. The words landed heavy in the air. Batman didn't answer. "He held a gun to my son's head. He... His throat closed before he could finish. Batman stepped closer. "We can't let that be his legacy." Gordon looked up sharply. So we lie? Is that what you're saying? Batman's eyes stayed fixed on Harvey's body. The Joker wanted to show Gotham that its best could fall, he said quietly. And if they know he was right, everything Harvey stood for dies with him. Gordon swallowed hard. He was the symbol of hope, and we have to keep that hope alive, Batman said. He glanced down. The coin lay near Harvey's open hand. Batman crouched, picking it up. It was cold. One side clean and shining, the other burned beyond recognition, a perfect summary of what Harvey had become. Batman pressed the coin into Gordon's palm. Hide the truth, preserve the lie, for them. Gordon looked at the coin, then at his son, trembling but alive. The weight of the choice settled on him like a shroud. If anyone finds out, Gordon said softly. They won't, Batman replied. I'll make sure of it. Gordon's eyes widened, realization cutting deeper than grief. No, he said, you can't. Batman stepped back, already turning toward the shadows. You'll hunt me, he said. You'll condemn me. Gordon's voice broke. But you've done nothing wrong. Batman paused for just a heartbeat, a flicker of Bruce beneath the mask. But I can. He moved toward the exit, not limping, but slower than before. The cape dragged along the ground, leaving a dark trail. Gordon knelt beside Harvey's body and brushed a hand over the untouched side of his face. He remembered the bright smile, the laughter at the fundraiser, Rachel's shining eyes when she said his name, the White Knight, the future of Gotham. The city could not lose that tonight, not after everything. He whispered, almost to himself, "We'll protect you, Harvey, even now." His son squeezed his hand. Gordon forced himself to stand. The lie began with his next breath. Batman reached the warehouse exit and looked back once more. Gordon, his family, Harvey's body, all bathed in cold, flashing light, all part of the price. No more dead heroes, Batman murmured. He stepped into the night. The Batpod's engine roared to life, not triumphant, but defiant. A wounded knight answering a call only he could hear. He sped away before the guilt could catch him. The last thing left behind was a single drop of water hitting the floor next to Harvey's coin. Not from the rain, but from Gordon's cheek.
Chapter 37. The Final Confrontation. The night had begun with fire and laughter. Now it ended with whispers and ash. Outside the warehouse, officers rushed across the wet pavement, searching, questioning, trying to piece together chaos into something that made sense. But the truth, the real truth, stayed inside with three men who could never speak of it. Batman watched from the shadows as Gordon approached the body bag. Dent's face, the untouched half, had been turned toward the zipper, the scarred side hidden from the light. Medics worked quickly and quietly, as if honoring a fallen soldier. To Gotham, Harvey Dent had died a hero, and someone else had to rise to take his place among the monsters. Gordon called to the officers. "Put out a warrant. He murdered 2 people tonight. He kidnapped my family." He forced his voice to remain steady. "Batman is now considered armed and dangerous." The words tasted like poison.
His men hesitated, stunned. "Sir, Batman saved—" "That's an order," Gordon barked. The tone left no room for doubt. The lie hardened into truth. Batman revved the Batpod once, a final goodbye of steel and thunder before launching forward. Gordon's son watched him go, confused, but his eyes weren't filled with fear, only admiration. "Why is he running, Dad?" he asked. Gordon looked down, and in his son's innocent gaze he saw the cost of the choice he'd made. The boy deserved to believe in Dent. He deserved a hero who didn't wear a mask. "Because we have to chase him," he said. He was explaining to his child and to himself. He was trying to stay strong enough not to break. Batman tore through the narrow industrial streets. Sirens erupted behind him, a storm of blue light and screaming engines. He could outrun them all, but that wasn't why he fled. Gotham needed someone to hate. Let it be him. The guilt pressed against his chest like armor made of stone. Rachel's voice, Harvey's smile, Gordon's trembling hands, all ghosts riding with him. He had promised Rachel a world where Harvey could save the city. Now he was the one saving Dent from the truth. Darkness blurred by as he pushed harder, faster. Gordon's voice carried through the bullhorn behind him, fading as the distance grew. "This is what needs to happen. He's the hero Gotham deserves, but not the one it needs right now." Batman didn't look back. He couldn't. His eyes stayed fixed on the road ahead, the only path left. Gordon scooped his son into his arms as they reached the railing where Batman had vanished into the dark. The boy still didn't understand. But he didn't do anything wrong. Gordon looked out at the city his friend was sacrificing everything for. "Because sometimes," he whispered, "the truth isn't good enough. Sometimes people deserve to have their faith rewarded." His voice strengthened, a vow in the night. Batman's a silent guardian, a watchful protector. The words would echo through Gotham's streets like scripture by sunrise. A dark night. The sirens dimmed. The lights faded. The Joker's laughter finally died. Gotham exhaled. But one man, the only man who could never stop, kept riding into the dark.
Chapter 38. The Blame. Morning came slowly, as if even the sun hesitated to shine on Gotham. Gray light bled into the streets, revealing the wreckage of the night before. Shattered windows, burned-out cars, cracked pavement. A city stitched together with fear and hope. A city that needed a story it could live with. Gotham General Hospital, press room. Reporters swarmed the space, hungry for answers. Flashbulbs popped like tiny explosions. Microphones thrust forward like weapons, demanding a confession. Commissioner Gordon stepped up to the podium. He should have felt proud, saving Gotham, protecting his family. Instead, the air around him felt heavy, suffocating. Behind him, a black-draped coffin waited. On top lay Harvey's photograph, the smiling, unscarred one, the hero, the lie. Gordon cleared his throat, his voice rough from the night. Harvey Dent was a man of unwavering courage and integrity. He believed in justice, in the law, and he died fighting for that belief. Every word he spoke drove another nail into the truth. He saved Batman's life. He saved mine. He saved this city. He paused,
His hands tightened on the podium until his knuckles went white. "But last night, a madman tried to break us." The crowd leaned forward. "He failed because people like Harvey Dent will never let Gotham bow to fear." The applause was thunderous. Gordon felt sick. Gotham Police Headquarters, later. Detectives gathered around crime scene photos. Harvey's victims. Men Dent murdered with his own hand, but the file folder said, "Suspect, Batman." The room buzzed with outrage. How in the hell are we supposed to bring him in? He's just a man. No, he's not. Gordon strode past without listening. Orders were orders. Truth was buried. Justice had been rewritten. The streets, nightfall. Batman watched from a distant rooftop as Harvey's statue, already cast in bronze, was slowly lifted into place outside City Hall. Speed mattered when building legends. People gathered below, laying flowers and lighting candles. A whisper passed through the crowd. "He saved us. Gotham's true hero. Our white knight." Batman stood in the shadows, silent, unseen. The villain of the story he had rewritten. His ribs ached, his leg throbbed, his heart, that was the worst pain of all. He knew he could never stand next to them again. He didn't belong in the light. Rachel would have understood. At least, Bruce hoped she would. Bat Signal Platform, Ruth of MCU. Gordon stepped out into the cool night air, coat flapping behind him. The bat signal pointed upward, waiting. He hesitated. Batman emerged from the shadows, silent as always. They didn't look at each other. They didn't need to. "You sure about this?" Gordon asked quietly. Batman nodded once. Gordon raised the cover and hammered it down over the bat signal. The metal clanged dully, echoing across the rooftop. Darkness reclaimed the sky. Batman exhaled. Not relief, not sadness. Acceptance. "These streets are going to be worse before they get better," Gordon warned. Batman stepped back into the shadows. "I'll be there." Gordon turned around, but Batman was already gone. A new kind of silence. Down below, Gotham moved on, never realizing how fragile its stability was, how close it had come to collapsing under its own corruption, how much one man had given to keep it standing. But Batman knew, and that was enough. Chapter 40. Epilogue. A Silent Guardian. Dawn crept over Gotham like a promise it wasn't sure it could keep. The storm had passed, but its memory lingered. Water glistening on rooftops, sewers still roaring with runoff, air thick with the scent of smoke and rain. For once the city was quiet, but it was not peace. It was the breath held between heartbeats. Wayne Penthouse, empty rooms. Sunlight filtered through tall, broken windows, illuminating dust suspended in still air. Furniture sat untouched. Clothes remained neatly hung in closets no one would open again. Bruce Wayne was gone. The man who once filled these halls with laughter, charity events, and excuses for disappearing into the night had disappeared for good. No one suspected that the city's most infamous criminal and its greatest silent protector were the same person. That was the point. Bruce left no trace, only questions. Where did he go? Why did he leave? Could he have saved Harvey? His absence was its own defense. GCPD, Commissioner's Office. Gordon stared out his window at the skyline.
A tray of untouched coffee sat behind him, growing cold. He hadn't slept. I doubted he would for many nights to come. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Harvey's coin, the clean side, the truth they chose. He reminded himself over and over that the lie was necessary, but necessity didn't make it easier. The door cracked open. His son peeked in. "You okay, Dad?" Gordon forced a weary smile. "Yeah, buddy. Just thinking about a friend." The boy nodded solemnly, as though understanding more than he should. "He'll come back," he said. Gordon looked at the covered bat signal on the rooftop opposite his window. "I hope you're right." The Narrows, a shadow without a name. In the darkest part of Gotham, crime was already stirring again. A dealer in a back alley, a mugger reaching for a knife, a scream cut short. Then the darkness moved. A shape landed silently behind the attacker, a flash of motion, a grunt, and a body hitting the ground. No theatrics, no lingering, just justice. The victim turned toward the figure, wanting to thank him, but the silhouette was already gone, swept back into the night. Rumors would spread. Batman still lives. Batman hunts. Batman protects. They would never know the truth of that night, what he lost, who he became. But they didn't need to. Gotham River, a single flower. The currents carried debris from the battle, shards of metal, burnt wood, remnants of terror. Among them a flower drifted alone, Rachel Dawes's favorite, a white lily, dropped from a lonely bridge rail, falling gently onto the water. It floated toward the open sea. Some memories the city could not keep. Some love stories never end. They just move silently onward. Final vigil. High atop the tallest gargoyle, Batman stood watch, black against the growing light. Not Bruce Wayne, not a billionaire, not a man with a life to return to. Just the mask, the vow, the burden no one else could carry. He surveyed the city beneath him, broken, corrupted, imperfect, but alive. You'll hate me now, and someday maybe you'll forgive me. His cape stirred like the wings of a waiting storm. Until then, he would be exactly what Gotham needed, a guardian without praise, a protector without glory, a legend written in shadow, a silent guardian, a watchful protector, a dark knight. Batman stepped back from the edge and vanished.